Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at a Gewurztraminer from Alsace, from a producer called Schoffit, and this is from a single vineyard, a lieu Harth, and it's named Cuvee Caroline. It's the 2019 vintage of that. The Schoffit family have been engaged in agriculture of different sorts in and around the city of Colmar, right in the heart of the Alsace Wine Producing Region, since 1599. And their agriculture was probably mixed agriculture and may well have included a certain amount of vine growing and winemaking at various stages. But the modern wine domain was only founded in 1973 by Robert Schoffit. And he had, I think it was 10 hectares of vines initially, and then managed to buy a portion of a famous vineyard called Rangen, the Thann. So the estate has three main vineyard holdings. So probably the best, most famous of these is this very steep granite Grand Cru, Rangen, the Thann, which when the family bought it was completely abandoned. It was so steep, it wasn't worth tending, people thought. So you actually had to be able to make a really good wine off it to make it viable to be making wine there. But over a period of time, initially Robert, and then I assume with the help of his son Bernard, restored the vineyard there, and they own about a third of this Grand Cru, which other owners include the Sommerberg family, for instance. So some really fabulous wines being made there. They have a hectare of another Grand Cru called Sommerberg, so just a tiny holding there. And then the balance of their vineyard is the Harth vineyard. Now Harth, not a Grand Cru, but a particular named vineyard, and there's a history of the name of this site that evidently goes back in records to 1259, I believe. So there's a long history on this site, particularly of agriculture. I'm not sure whether that has always included viticulture, but almost certainly viticulture would have gone on there for a lot of this period. The estate, like I said, they have most of their vines. They're about 9 hectares, I believe. And that includes a plot of 80-year-old chasselas, for instance, so slightly unusual incarnation of chasselas in terms of quality. The Gewurztraminer vines they have there evidently are 50 years old. And this is one of the things that the family believe in. So Robert was succeeded by his son Bernard, and Bernard today is assisted in the winemaking by his son Alexandre. And their approach is to keep yields good and low. The vineyard here is completely farmed sustainably, so it's low input agriculture. They're trying to avoid using large or unnecessarily chemical inputs of any sort. The designation of this as Cuvee Caroline is their way of saying that the wine will be rich and probably have some sweetness left in it. The wine is vinified in stainless steel tanks with temperature control, and then ages for 18 months prior to release. Now, how long that aging is in tank and how much of that is in bottle is not specified, but I would assume at least 6 months in tank, possibly longer. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? This thing's like quite a nice deep colour. There's almost sort of a deep greenish, almost a golden green, if you can have golden green. When I swirl the wine, it's 13.5% alcohol according to its label. It's not particularly showing. Oh yes, there we go. Some tears flowing down the glass. That would suggest there is some residual sugar in there, which I'm expecting given the Cuvee Caroline designation. Yes, a reasonable alcohol as well, I suppose. So let's have a look at the aromas, shall we? those are really very classically Gewurztraminer aromas. The first things I'm smelling are more to the lychee end of the spectrum of aromas you'd expect from Gewurztraminer. Now there is more sort of lifted rose petal. I've heard people use the expression jasmine flower towards this. Actually, I like that. I think that's quite a nice description of what we've got going on here. But then there's some exotic spice. There's a little bit of ginger note coming through there, perhaps. And also underlying that, there's a honeyed nature as well. So plenty going on the nose there. So let's have a taste. Yes, that's sweet, that's rich. It's not overly sweet, actually. I mean, it's medium sweet. And there's a honeyed note coming through at the very end of things there. Acidity has a certain freshness initially, but it doesn't last particularly long. And there's a roundness and a richness and that honeyed nature to the finish there. But there is a nice sort of lift to the initial lychee and rose petal aromas that are coming through there. I think actually the slight sweetness is helping to lift that as well. That's adding to that. I'm talking about honeyed notes, but actually the sweetness is quite fresh. The alcohol seems to be rounding the wine out quite nicely. It's medium bodied. And again, those spices, there's a little bit of a phenolic sort of texture, maybe a slight bitterness, but again, that sort of gingery note. The jasmine flower perfume, all coming through very nicely, and showing on the finish nicely as well over the top of that sort of quite rich fruit. I think that's a really quite sort of classic Gewurztraminer style, although it is rich with a degree of sweetness. It's not finishing sweet and sticky. So it's not really a sort of sweet dessert wine, but it has a richness that might pair really nicely with very strong cheeses, with pork or something like that. It would benefit from having something to play against in terms of something sort of fatty, oily and rich. So I hope you found that interesting. I think that's an excellent wine. So that was Schoffit's Harth Cuvee Caroline Gewurztraminer from 2019. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you will like and share the video with your friends. I hope you leave your comments for us so that we know what you think. And most importantly, though, I hope you join us again. Thanks again. Bye.